degrees Celsius above the global average temperature in 1750 continues to be touted as important. As I have pointed out a few hundred times, the 2C mark doesn't matter. I explain why in this short video. The 2C mark was established by economist William Nordhaus in 1977. Never mind that economists are here to make astrologers look reliable. Never mind that we've learned quite a bit about climate change since 1977, including that we currently occupy the hottest Earth with Homo sapiens present. The Advisory Group on Greenhouse Gases was the predecessor to the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. In the Advisory Group's final year of service, 1990, it pointed out in an October report that, quote, beyond 1 degree C may elicit rapid, unpredictable, and nonlinear responses that could lead to extensive ecosystem damage, end quote. Nonlinear responses translate to self-reinforcing feedback loops being triggered, and the advisory group was directly pointing to the dependence of human animals on undamaged ecosystems. Most importantly, the advisory group was clear to point out that 1C, which we passed long ago, was a very critical number. Climate speaker and writer David Spratt said 0.5C was the upper limit in a presentation he delivered in October 2014. At the half-degree mark, self-reinforcing feedback loops were already triggered. Were, as in past tense. I have identified a few dozen such feedback loops in my climate change summary at guymcpherson.com. As I have indicated with an ongoing series of videos focused on self-reinforcing feedback loops, only one feedback loop is required to ensure the irreversibility of climate change. The ultra-conservative IPCC admitted climate change was irreversible in its September 2019 report, Special Report on the Ocean and Cryosphere in a Changing Climate. The IPCC indicated the overheated ocean was the culprit underlying the irreversibility of climate change with that report. A peer-reviewed paper in the May 8, 2020 issue of Science indicates that lethal wet bulb temperatures are already contributing to human mortality, especially in tropical and subtropical areas. Lethal wet bulb temperatures cause organ failure, which cannot be a fun way to go. According to a large-scale synthesis published in April 2019 by European Strategy and Policy Analysis System, quote, an increase of 1.5 degrees is the maximum the planet can tolerate. Should temperatures increase further, we will face even more droughts, floods, extreme heat, and poverty, and at worst, the extinction of humankind altogether. End quote. Please remind me again how important 2C is. It's not as if we haven't been warned. We have known for decades that the 2C number set in stone by Nordhaus is dangerous. We were, quote, running out of time, end quote, to deal with greenhouse gases in 1965, according to the chief of the American Petroleum Institute. 14 years later, it was Edward Teller informing Big Oil they needed to change. Exxon accurately predicted where we were headed in 1982, and not only failed to heed the warnings, but kicked the warnings and the future of humanity to the curb. Al Gore and Carl Sagan testified to Congress in 1985 that we must act now on climate change. In late June 1989, Noel Brown, the director of the New York office of the United Nations Environment Program, indicated we had only until 2000 to avoid catastrophic climate change. I've detailed all this information and much more in my Extinction Foretold, Extinction Ignored essay at guymcpherson.com. As I have reported repeatedly, there is no turning back the proverbial clock. Maintaining industrial activity continues to overheat the planet. Reducing industrial activity reduces aerosol masking and therefore ratchets up overheating very rapidly. The rate of environmental change is critically important, and non-human vertebrates and non-human mammals cannot keep up with ongoing and projected rates of change. My recent scholarly work depends upon the research of others. I'm as displeased as anybody else by the consequences of our societal actions, including the short time remaining for our species. As a result, I've offered a way through this mess for those who are interested. You can find it at the About page at guymcpherson.com, and it goes something like this. I am asked nearly every day for advice about living. I recommend living where you feel most alive and, simultaneously, where you feel most useful. I recommend living fully. I recommend living with intention. I recommend living urgently, with death in mind. I recommend the pursuit of excellence. I recommend the pursuit of love. In light of the short time remaining in your life, and my own, I recommend all of the above, louder than before, more fully than you can imagine, to the limits of this restrictive culture and beyond. For you, for me, for us, for here, for now. Live large, be you, and bolder than you've ever been. Live as though you're dying. The day draws near.